I'm up at stupid o'clock in the morning again to try and get a sunrise image this morning. What I've got in my mind is I was at this location probably over a year ago, and it's a place I've never taken a picture of, but it's stuck in my mind kind of ever since really. And at this particular time of year, the sun is kind of rising in the right sort of direction to potentially make it work. So I'm going to head back to that location. It sits on the coast. It's kind of like a solitary tree that kind of sits by itself. And I think there's an awful lot of potential there. But I've never seen an image taken at this location, so I'm not entirely sure how the composition is gonna work, but I guess that's half the challenge and half the fun. So I'm not too far away from the tree now, maybe about 10 minutes, so I better make a beeline for that because my sunrise is in about 20 minutes. Couldn't it ever so fine? I've arrived at the tree, which you can see just behind me here, and the sky looks quite promising actually. When I first got up this morning, it was like crystal clear, and I thought it's going to be one of those sort of empty sky sort of sunrises, but we're actually getting quite a lot of sort of high cloud that's capturing that light. I don't know if you can see that there. It's actually looking quite nice. There's a great deal of colour up there. So I think there's quite a lot of potential here, but composition is quite difficult. So if you get too far close to the tree, sort of down this path here, the tree obviously then dominates your shot a lot more, but it dominates your shot too much. You need to start shooting kind of up to try and capture it, and that means less of the sea and the sunrise kind of put in a weird sort of position within the composition. So for me it didn't really work. And obviously if you get too far away from the tree, then it becomes insignificant. So I think where I am on this path at the moment is kind of a happy sort of medium. And then it's a question of sort of positioning kind of left and right. Now the key element here is, I don't know if you can see it, I'll just take you down. There's a barbed wire fence just here, and it kind of acts as a beautiful leading line into the shot. So where I've positioned my camera here, the top sort of barbed wire strand on this fence kind of runs straight through the corner, the top right corner of the composition pretty much. And I think that works quite nicely to sort of lead the eye kind of into the tree and the backdrop there. But if I get too close to the fence here by moving right, then I kind of lose that leading line sort of element in the shot. And if I move too far to the left, then I get more of the fence but less of the sunrise, and it becomes a challenge to fit that in. So yeah, quite often when you get to locations like this, it's just about finding the right location and taking your time and just feeling your way through it. And I'm pretty sure that where my camera is now is the best that I can achieve here. But it's just one of those scenes that looks really beautiful and it looks like it should be easy to photograph, but to me it doesn't really feel easy at all. So in terms of setup, it's pretty straightforward for this shot. I'm shooting at about f11 ISO 64, currently at 1 second, but that's going to get a lot faster the moment we actually get some light over that horizon, so sort of discount that. And I'm shooting at about 20 mil, but I've got a feeling the dynamic range is going to be a challenge here, so I'm just going to pop in a 2-stop underexposure bracket as well, just to be safe, to make sure that I don't burn out any part of this sunrise when the sun finally makes its appearance. That would be really annoying if I managed to destroy the image like that. So the bracket is kind of a bit like an insurance policy really. And then also on the front here I've got a 2-stop soft edge graduated filter as well, just to help pull in the top left of the image. You may notice that it's kind of off at a funny angle on the side. That's because there's a sort of this kind of right part of the image with the tree and the kind of hill kind of running down into the sea here. I don't need to darken that up, it's really the left hand side, so I've kind of tilted it and prioritized it for that side of the shot. And you may also have noticed that on the front I've got a circular polarizer, and I wouldn't usually shoot with a polarizer for these kind of shots because you're kind of shooting directly into the sun, and really that kind of nullifies the effect of the polarizer. It's not the optimum sort of light direction for it to work. But my Lee polarizer is stuck onto my filter holder now. I can't get it off. I'm using the old screw-in design, and it's absolute garbage. It is rubbish, and I've tried all sorts. I've tried various devices to try and unscrew it off. I've even had some suggestions of putting it in the fridge and freezer to try and contract it and get it off, and nothing has worked. Not a single tip I found anywhere works. So for now, I'm stuck with it on there. So I've twisted it to try and disengage the polarization as much as I can, but that's the best I can do. So that is really annoying. I'm probably going to have to go out and get a solution to that, but for the time being I'm just going to have to make do, because they're not the cheapest bit of equipment. Another quick important point before the sun rises, which should be in about 3 minutes. I'm focus stacking this as well, because this post here and the fence are really close to my camera, so my main exposure I'm focusing back on the tree, and then I'll do a secondary exposure where I focus probably on this post as well, and that'll give me good depth of field there. If I weren't to do that focus stack, then this post would look pretty soft, and I think it would really distract from the image, to be honest, because that post there is very, very prominent in the right side of the image. So I better put this camera down. These sunrise sunset shoots are always quite difficult to vlog and shoot at the same time, because there's very short optimum windows for actually getting the photographs. So I'm going to put the camera down and focus entirely on the photography, and then I'll come back to you with hopefully some successful results. So that's sunrise done. The best of the light is now behind us. You only really get a short window with these kind of things. I'm not too sure what to think of it really. I think there's an awful lot of potential there, and I really quite like the composition actually. But the sunrise didn't really materialise into that explosion of colours that I thought it would. I mean, earlier, maybe about half an hour before sunrise, there was real sort of indications that we're on for a really good one. But I think that cloud that was just down along the horizon there just fizzled the sun out just as it got over the horizon, and by the time it kind of got above that sort of cloud line, it felt like the best of it was kind of gone really, which is unfortunate, but there's not really much I can do about that. So it's just one of those things. I'm going to head home now, have a bit of brekkie, and then I will jump into the editing of these images, and I'll take you through that as well, so you can see this process right from start to finish. Okay, I'm back home. I've had a bit of breakfast and I've just finished the editing on these images. Now, I appreciate this video is getting out to about 9 or 10 minutes long already, so I'm not going to go into the editing in the usual in-depth manner I would, where I kind of change each setting in kind of almost like a real-time manner. Instead, I'll just go through some of the high-level approaches that I've taken here. If you're interested what the actual minute settings are for each image, you'll be able to see them over on the right of my Lightroom panel. Okay, the first point is that the 2-stop underexposure bracket was totally unnecessary. There was enough dynamic range in my standard exposures, so I didn't need them, but they were just an insurance policy in case I got it wrong. The final image edit here is actually a blend of 3 different exposures. So what I'll do is I'll take you through each of those exposures in turn. So this is my first image here, and this is focused in for the tree. And yeah, I quite like this image. The lighting on the mid and foreground is quite nice. It's starting to catch the light a little bit, which kind of lifted it to another level compared to images taken a little bit earlier in the sequence when there wasn't quite as much light in this area. So the image overall looks quite nice. What I would say is though that the sun, this part of the image here, it's just totally overpowering this part of the image for me, and that is a problem. But not to worry, I do have a solution. So basically what I did here is I ran through my edits that you can see here. If I just show you what the original raw image looked like, that's the original raw image and this is the edited image. So you can see I've just lifted the shadows a bit, pulled in the highlights, and yeah, I think it looked quite nice, to be honest. But that takes me on to the second image in my sequence. So this is the image where I focused in for the pole here, which is giving me my depth of field in my focus stack. And also you can see my big sausage fingers over this part of the image here. This is to cut out the sun and to block sun flaring in this bottom part, the foreground here. That's a little tip when you're taking pictures of sunrise or sunsets. Sometimes it's a good idea if you're blending different exposures to just throw in one exposure there where you cover the sun, because it will really help you to combat those sun flares. But overall, in this image here, I think the lighting in this foreground area is absolutely beautiful. I mean, you can see the individual droplets of dew down in this area just catching that light, so it looks fantastic, which is great because that's the part of the image that I focused in for. So what I did was I went to my first edit, I copied my settings, and then basically pasted them over onto this. And then I also used quite an important setting. If you go back to the first image, hold Control and select the second image, you can then go to Settings, Match Total Exposures, and that is an exceptionally powerful feature because basically it ensures that the exposure level across both images is identical, and that comes into its own when you're trying to blend those images together seamlessly. Okay, and then the third image in my sequence. This is again focused in for the tree, and it was taken maybe a minute or two before the first image of the three. But you can see here that the lighting in the mid and foreground is nowhere near as good. It looks quite flat, it looks quite lifeless. However, the area of the image that has the sun in looks so much better. You can see the outline of the Lake District hills there. The sun is just not overpowering that part of the image. So that is why I've decided to introduce this third image into the blend. So now that I've got my three different exposures, I simply select all of them, right click on them, and then go to Edit, Open as Layers in Photoshop. Once they were opened in Photoshop, then I just auto align them. And then simply I used manual masking to blend the images together, taking the relative components of each that I liked to create a master image that had all the strengths of all three images with none of the weaknesses. And the final result was this image here that you can see, and I really like it. It's totally surpassed my expectations. I was a bit unsure when I was out in the field shooting this, but I love this image. I really do. It's turned out so much better than I really thought it would. But on this, you can see on the right here, I just did a few simple edits. I just bumped the exposure up very slightly and did a few highlight shifts, but really I didn't have to do all that much to it. The only other thing that I did do is I reopened it in Photoshop and I removed that annoying bit of grass. I don't know why, but I just hated it. My eyes went straight to it and I got rid of it. So you can see in this image I just removed it with a content aware fill, which did a really nice job. But that was about it. So overall, I'm pretty satisfied with how this has turned out. It was one of those images which I was really on the edge about, even do I bother going out for this, because I wasn't too sure whether there was real potential there, but I'm so glad that I did, because in the days and weeks to come, the sun is going to move to the right here and the composition just wouldn't work. So ultimately, this composition only really works during a short window during the year, and I have to say I timed it perfectly and I'm so happy that it came off. So that's about it for today. Thanks very much for watching. If you've got any thoughts on the final image, pop them down below. And if you've got any idea on how I can fix my Lee polarizer, please help me, because it's doing my absolute head in. If you haven't yet subscribed, please click that button for more videos just like this. And yeah, I'll catch you all soon. Goodbye.